Stop what you're doing, because this might completely change how you look at the 49ers draft. 2 edge rushers, 2 totally different philosophies, and 1 decision that could shape the future of this defense. And trust me, not everyone is going to agree on this one. Right after this, make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe if you're ready for real fan-level breakdowns like this. Let's get into it. First off, as the draft gets closer, the tension is building. You can feel it. Every fan, every analyst, every front office mind is trying to solve the same puzzle. What direction should this team go? And here's the thing, this isn't just about picking a player. This is about identity. This is about whether the 49ers want specialization or versatility, flash or foundation. So let me ask you something right away. What matters more to you, elite pass rushing in specific moments, or a complete defensive presence on all 3 downs? Because that's exactly the dilemma here. Let's start with one of the most talked about edge rushers in this class, NIC Skowhetan. Now, this is a player who came into the college season with serious hype. Expectations were high, and to his credit, the production showed up. We're talking about a guy who racked up double-digit sacks and consistently made life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. Turn on the tape, and the first thing that jumps out is his explosiveness. This guy doesn't just move fast, he moves quick. And if you really understand edge play, you know that quickness is everything. That first step, that instant burst, that's what wins representatives in the NFL. And he's got it. He's got the kind of get-off that forces tackles to panic. The kind of bend that lets him dip under contact and slice around the edge like it's nothing. You see him lower his hips, angle his body, and suddenly he's behind the line before the tackle can even reset. It's smooth. It's natural. And honestly, it's exciting to watch. But what really separates him isn't just the athleticism, it's the intelligence in how he rushes. This isn't a one-move guy. He sets defenders up. He plays chess out there. You'll see him attack the outside shoulder over and over again, forcing the tackle to overcommit, and then boom, he counters inside. Clean. Efficient. Devastating. There are sequences on tape where he completely dismantles a blocker, not with raw power, but with timing, awareness, and creativity. That's high-level pass rushing. And yeah, sometimes, he's just so quick that he doesn't even need a move. He'll simply run the arc, untouched, and suddenly he's in the quarterback's face. That kind of ability. You can't teach it. But here's where things get complicated. Because for every strength, there's a serious concern. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, his arm length. At the NFL level, especially in the trenches, length isn't just a detail. It's a weapon. And when you don't have it, you feel it. There are representatives where, if an offensive tackle gets their hands on him early, it's over. He gets locked out, neutralized, completely taken out of the play. And that's not a minor issue, that's a structural limitation. Now add to that his frame. He's not the kind of player you're trusting to hold the edge against the run consistently. He's not built to take on double teams or anchor down against power schemes. So what does that mean? It means you're drafting a specialist. A guy you bring in on 3rd down, tell him go hunt, and hope he changes the game in those moments. But let me ask you this. Is that worth a first-round pick? Seriously, think about it. Because history has shown us players like Bryce Huff can be incredibly effective in that role. But they're also limited. They're not every down players. They're not defensive anchors. And if you're investing premium capital, you have to be absolutely sure that impact justifies the limitation. That's why, despite all the talent, there are real questions about where he should be drafted. Now let's flip the script. Because on the other side, you've got a completely different kind of player, Gabriel Murphy. And this is where things get really interesting. Physically, this guy checks every box. Size? Check. Length? Check. Strength? Absolutely. He's built like a prototypical NFL edge defender. Thick frame, long arms, and the kind of natural power that immediately translates to the next level. But it's not just about how he looks, it's about how he plays. This is a violent football player. He attacks blockers. He plays with intensity. And most importantly, he can hold his own in the run game. That alone makes him valuable. Because now you're not just talking about a situational weapon, you're talking about someone who can stay on the field. Someone who can line up in multiple spots. Someone who gives your defensive coordinator flexibility. He can rush standing up, or with his hand in the dirt. He can line up wide, or slide inside. That versatility. It matters more than people think. And when you watch him, you see flashes, real flashes, of pass rushing upside. Power moves. Hand usage. Moments where he just overwhelms the blocker. But here's the catch. It's not consistent. That's the biggest issue. You'll see the flashes, and then they disappear. You'll see the potential, but not the refinement. He's raw. And that's not an insult, it's just reality. He's young. He's still developing. And at the NFL level, he's going to need time. Coaching. Repetition. Growth. So now the question becomes, do you bet on what a player is right now, or what he could become? Because that's the real decision here. One player gives you immediate pass rush juice, but with limitations. The other gives you a complete profile, but needs development. So let's take it a step further. Imagine two draft scenarios. In the first one, the 49ers take the pass rush specialist early, and then address wide receiver later with someone like Jermaine Burton. That gives you explosiveness on defense, and a weapon on offense. In the second scenario, they pass on that specialist, take a foundational piece on the offensive line like Blake Fisher, and then come back for the versatile edge rusher in the second round. Now you've strengthened the trenches on both sides. So here's the question of the day. Which strategy are you taking, and why? Are you going for the immediate impact pass rusher and hoping he changes games on third down? Or are you building long-term, stacking versatile, foundational pieces that give you flexibility and depth? Because personally, that second approach is hard to ignore. When the gap between the two edge players isn't massive, and you have a chance to secure a starting caliber offensive tackle, that's value you don't pass up easily. And if your coaching staff believes they can develop raw talent, then suddenly, that unfinished player becomes a long-term asset. That's how great teams sustain success. They don't just chase highlights, they build systems. They don't just draft for today, they plan for tomorrow. And as fans, it's easy to get caught up in the flash, the sacks, the big plays, the hype. But championships, they are built in the trenches, with depth, with versatility, with players who can adapt and grow. So yeah, this decision, it's bigger than just two names on a board. It's a philosophy, it's a direction, and it's exactly why this draft is going to define the next phase of this team. Because one way or another, they're choosing what kind of team they want to be. Now here's where things take an even deeper turn. Because the more you study this draft, the more you realize, this isn't just about picking players, it's about predicting the future of this roster. And I want you to really think about this for a second. What happens if the 49ers get this decision wrong? Not just, oh, bad pick, move on. I'm talking about a mistake that lingers for years. Because when you're drafting in that late first-round range, you don't get many chances to land difference makers. You have to maximize every single selection. And that's why this edge rusher debate is so intense right now. Because on one side, you have the idea of immediate impact. A guy who can step in on day one and give you something, maybe not everything, but something real. Pressure, disruption, energy. But on the other side, you've got long-term upside. A player who might not dominate right away, but could evolve into a complete force. And if we are being honest, the 49ers are at a stage where both options are tempting. This is not a rebuilding team. This is a team that expects to win now. Which brings me to another important question. Do you draft for need, or do you draft for ceiling? Because those are two completely different strategies. If you draft for need, you might lean toward a player who can fill a specific role immediately. Someone who helps you fix a weakness right away, even if their overall upside is limited. But if you draft for ceiling, you're gambling. You're betting that your coaching staff can unlock something special, that a raw player can turn into a star under the right system. And let's be real, that's exactly what separates good teams from great ones. Great teams develop talent. And when you look at a coach like Kyle Shanahan, you know this staff isn't afraid to mold players into their system. But development takes time. And time is something contenders don't always feel like they have. That's the pressure. That's the tension. And it doesn't stop there. Because this decision also connects to another major question surrounding this roster. What about the offense? We've talked a lot about defense, but let's not ignore the reality. This team has to keep evolving offensively too. And if you pass on a wide receiver early, you're making a statement. You're saying, we trust what we have. But is that the right move? Because injuries, depth issues, and inconsistency can hit fast in the NFL. One or two things go wrong, and suddenly that position becomes a problem. So now you're balancing three different priorities: edge rusher, offensive line, and wide receiver. That's not easy. And that's exactly why fans are so divided right now. Some people are saying, go get the pass rusher. Fix the defense. That's the identity of this team. Others are saying, no, protect the quarterback. Build the offensive line. That's how you win in January. And then there's a third group saying, give the offense another weapon. Make this unit unstoppable. So let me ask you another thing. If you could only fix any of those areas in the first two rounds, which one are you choosing? Because you can't have everything. Not in this draft. And that's what makes this situation so fascinating. Now here's something else that doesn't get talked about enough: the psychological side of drafting. Yeah, we talk about film, stats, measurables. But what about mindset? What about how a player responds to pressure? Because when you come into a locker room like the 49ers, expectations aren't just high, they're intense. You're not walking into a rebuilding franchise where you can take your time. You're stepping into a team with Super Bowl ambitions. Every snap matters. Every mistake gets noticed. So the question becomes, which of these players is built for that moment? The polished specialist who already knows how to win in his role? Or the raw talent who still needs to figure it out? Because confidence, resilience, and adaptability, those traits matter just as much as physical tools. And we've seen it before. Players with all the talent in the world, who never put it together. And others, who weren't perfect prospects, but found a way to thrive. That's the unpredictable nature of the draft. And honestly, that's what makes it so addicting. Now let's bring it back to the big picture. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about comparing two edge rushers. It's about understanding team-building philosophy. Do you want a player who fits a very specific role at a high level? Or do you want someone who gives you flexibility, even if it takes time to unlock their full potential? And there's no easy answer. That's the truth. Both paths can work. Both paths can fail. But the key is alignment. Your coaching staff, your front office, your scheme, they all have to be on the same page. Because if you draft a player, and then try to force him into something he's not, you're setting him up to fail. And we've seen that happen too many times. So whatever direction the 49ers choose, they have to commit to it. Fully.
No hesitation.
No second guessing. Because once that pick is in, there's no going back. And that's why this moment right here, this decision, it's bigger than it looks. It's not just another draft pick. It's a statement. A statement about identity. A statement about priorities. A statement about the future. So now I'll leave you with this. When you look back at this draft a year from now, what do you want to be saying? Do you want to say, they played it safe, and it worked? Or do you want to say, they took a risk, and found something special? Because one way or another, we're about to find out exactly what kind of team this really is.